What's up, guys? Is meth and Adderall the same? Have you ever wondered if meth and Adderall are the same? I mean, crystal meth and Adderall, one's prescribed, one's from a dealer. There's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of memes out there, there's a lot of misconception out there that these are literally the same drugs. So let's find out together. If you're new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Eric. I am diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. Those are my diagnoses. I lost a wife and a father to suicide. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict, and I do everything I can to share as much as I can so that nobody goes through life alone. So let's find out if meth and Adderall are the same drug. Here is Adderall. This is my prescription for Adderall. Amphetamine salts, 20 milligram tablets. I split these tablets in half. So is meth and Adderall the same thing? There's so many jokes out there and so many times people will say, oh, you're on Adderall, so you're on legalized meth. Are they the same? Well, let's look at the chemical properties of meth versus Adderall. So here is the chemical makeup of meth. Here is the chemical makeup of Adderall. As you can see, no, they are not the same. They are actually different and they have some very similar properties, but you just saw the chemical makeup of both. They are literally different compositions of elements that make each of the drugs different. So crystal meth and Adderall, to answer your first and foremost question, are not the same. But how are they not the same, and what does it even feel like? And I'll even share with my experience, because yes, I've done meth before. It wasn't my drug of choice. I've only done it a few times, and it was on accident. Why? Because, well, it was broke up in a line of coke and I snorted it. Crystal meth versus Adderall. There's always that misconception that these are the same, even though now you can chemically see that they are not the same. When you try to even do research on this, it's really amazing, because what happens is a bunch of rehabs actually pop up. You actually really have to dig to find information to see if crystal meth and Adderall are the same thing. So I ended up doing a lot of the digging to find out, okay, what is really the true difference between these two drugs? Both of them affect your dopamine. Both of them affect how your brain works. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Anywhere to the side effects are very similar. But there is one major difference. It is the blood-brain barrier. So in your brain, there's a blood-brain barrier that literally protects your brains from different toxins, and certain things cannot actually get through this blood-brain barrier. Well, when it comes to amphetamine, which is what Adderall is, it actually cannot cross that barrier in your brain. Crystal meth, on the other hand, because of the molecule makeup, can. And that is where the big difference lies. How these drugs actually affect your system and how they hit your system are tremendously different. One, it does not cross that. The other one does. So that means it actually gets right into your brain a lot quicker than what even like Adderall will. Adderall is something that has to work through your system. And even from personal experience, there's a huge difference on how the two work. There's also that difference of, we always think that, oh, well, if it's prescribed, it has to be healthier, it has to be safer because it's a prescription. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of prescription drugs out there that have very, very bad side effects. Adderall is one of them. Adderall is an addictive substance. When you are ADHD, it is to help treat it. 30% though of the Adderall prescriptions out there are actually out there for illegal use. It's people that don't really need Adderall, and they're using it because it does increase where you don't sleep. If you're ADHD though, I hate to tell you this, you sleep. Actually, I sleep the best when I take an Adderall because I'm not stressed. My brain actually kind of slows down, changes your appetite, it changes your focus. So there are those differences. Meth actually does the same thing for you. It can change your sex drive. So there's a lot of very, very similar things, but now, when it comes to how it affects and gets into your brain and how it hits your system is very different. What are my personal experiences on it? Well, one, meth, you don't necessarily know what's in it. I mean, meth is not made in a lab. It's not made by a pharmaceutical company. And yes, if you're anti-big pharma, all that, I would rather have something that's made by big pharma than built and made in somebody's garage or in their basement or in their bathtub. That's my personal experience, all right? So that's my 2 cents right there. Now, when it comes to it, though, is you don't necessarily know what you have in the meth, and there's no way to necessarily measure it out. You have to remember that most drug dealers and most people making this stuff are not chemists. When it comes to something like Adderall, they are. So here is how the personal experience of the two is very different. With meth, I felt a lot of the different physical side effects of meth than what I do with Adderall. When I had snorted meth, one of the first things I realized is how my mouth felt, how tense it got, how tight it got, and then how my brain actually then ended up slowing down. So I actually felt, when it came to meth, I felt the physical attributes of meth before I felt the mental side of it. I felt all of a sudden my body getting very tense. I felt my jaw start to lock up. I knew I did meth because of how it burned going down my nose. My drugs of choice were actually alcohol and cocaine. It was not meth. The only reason I ever did meth was because people would lay it out like lines of cocaine. I would end up feeling just those effects. I felt all of a sudden, eventually my brain would slow down to a certain extent, but it wasn't a focused extent and it wasn't dosed correctly. When it comes to Adderall is like, if I take my glasses off, everything's blurry. I'm constantly trying to use my focus to try and pick up and zoom in or view something, and I can't. And there's so much out there that I don't know, and I can't distinguish really what anything is. When I put Adderall on, it's kind of like I put glasses on my brain. All of a sudden, I'm a lot more focused. The way that I feel, I don't have any of the tenseness. I don't have any of the body feelings that I did when I was on meth. Where with Adderall, because I know how to take the dosage, because it does not hit my system as rapidly, because it's not passing through the blood-brain barrier, it allows my system to gradually increase with it in my system to where I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to adult. I'm ready to do my to-do list. I'm ready to get the day started. And I start performing and acting as an adult should, getting everything done that I need to, and not getting distracted, not being overwhelmed in my head, not starting a million different tasks that I never finish. With meth, it hit your system very quickly. Next thing you know, I was focused in, but I was also jittery. I was also jumpy. I could feel goosebumps. I could feel myself shaking. And I feel personally it has to do with how you're taking it, how it's regulated and dosed to you. And again, these are only my personal experiences. But with Adderall, it's actually a lifesaver to me. Now, there is drugs out there for ADHD that are very, very identical to meth. But Adderall is not one of them. Chemically, they are not the same. They don't have the same properties. They have a lot of the same properties, but they don't have all the same properties. Also, when it comes to when you have ADHD, stimulants aren't even the only medication out there used to help treat ADHD. Wellbutrin is out there that actually is sometimes treated for ADHD. There's other medications out there that are used to help treat ADHD. Adderall isn't really the only route to go. When I know that when it comes to Adderall, because of how your brain and dopamine systems work, what it releases in your brain, yes, it does help me with my anxiety. It helps me with my depression. It makes me feel good because I feel like I have control over my life versus no control over my life. Both are very addictive and both can be abused very easily. When it comes to it, though, that is my tool that helps me get through life. I take 10 milligrams in the morning and I take 10 milligrams in the afternoon, and I am able to adult like no other, get my stuff done, be productive. Versus when I don't take any Adderall, I don't get anything done because I can't get out of my head. I can't get out of my thought process. And unfortunately, because those two drugs are so similar, a lot of people do self-medicate. I know a lot of former addicts out there who actually self-medicated, didn't necessarily realize they did, but realized that, hey, I kind of feel normal on this drug and I don't feel like I'm not normal. Like I can actually perform and act like what I would assume a normal person acts like. And that's almost kind of like what a functioning alcoholic is or a functioning addict is, where we actually can still function because it is helping our brain out in some way, shape, or form, even though it's hurting us tremendously in another way. When it comes down to ADHD, though, please make sure that you go out and get diagnosed. Don't self-medicate yourself. And when you are diagnosed, you understand what exactly it is and how to actually work around it. And not all of the working tools for ADHD have to per se be Adderall. There are other things that can also help you out and help you through the fight. And again, it's trial and error for what works for you because we're all different and you got to remember that. So next time that somebody says, hey, Adderall and meth are the same, chemically they're not the same. Very close, but not the same. And it does have that one major property difference of how it's absorbed into your brain. Hate to tell you guys this, not the same. But when it comes down to all the different medications out there, I'll do a lot more reviews even when it comes to the different drugs out there and how they are very similar. And again, when it comes to Adderall, let your doctor know if any changes happen in your system or if you have any different feelings or if you feel anything is getting out of control. The more that you communicate with your doctor, the easier it is to get the correct help that you need or make the adjustments even in your medication that are needed. That way that you can perform because you are an amazing human being and you deserve that. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you click the description box down below, you'll see links to all my different social medias. You'll see links to the mental health Discord community for free peer-to-peer support. You'll even see links down below for things on Amazon, like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use to help with my anxiety, even my depression when it gets a little out of hand, but I can use coping tools for it. Have a link down below to BetterHelp. Again, trial and error to find out what works for you, and therapy is phenomenal. And when you find the right therapist and you have the right goal set, working through that is amazing. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this together, and remember that you matter. Remember that you got this, and don't let anyone tell you any differently.